Hey, it's Alex Ratcliffe from BoardGameCo, and this is Two Back or Not to Back, where we're going to go through a variety of crowdfunding campaigns, talking about them, showing you what's up, talking about whether it makes sense to get them now, ever, if at all. And man, this video is late, I'm sorry. Picking Sunday as the day that I have to do the research for all the crowdfunding campaigns going up on Monday just doesn't make any sense. I don't know why I did it. The problem is you can't really pick Tuesday as the day of the video, because Tuesday is when the campaigns all go up, which means really, if you want to pick Tuesday, you have to pick Wednesday and do the research on Tuesday when the campaigns go up. And then at that point, you run into the Dice Towers crowdfunding, live stream, which wasn't the reason I originally picked Monday, but it is one of the reasons I don't switch to Wednesday. But now I'm doing it on Sunday when the kids are home all day, which means sometimes these videos are a bit delayed, and it is what it is. And now that we know way too much about what's going on in the background, let's go ahead and dive into this. It has been like 4 weeks since we've done a Two Back and Not to Back. Generally that happens towards the end of the year, although, yeah, it's been a light 4 weeks. Although, honestly, today is going to be pretty light as well, which I guess we'll round up with a bunch of other announcements and things to talk about. But today's going to be a pretty light week as well. In fact, we don't even have a value pick of the week. Every single week I pick a personal interest pick of the week and a value pick of the week, and I do not have a value pick of the week for you this week. I'll save the time of that. There's a bunch of campaigns to go over. I don't think any of them are particular must-backs as far as getting it now versus getting later or any of that kind of conversation. But with that, let's go ahead and start off this video with our Cult of the Now, which is featuring Game Nerds over here. Game Nerds has Europa Universalis, the price of power, down from $120 to $70. This is going to be your value pick of the week. No, that's not true. I don't want to say that. This is going to be your Cult of the Now. It's been a few weeks. Give me a minute to get back in the swing of things. But this is going to be your Cult of the Now, where we go ahead and look at a currently available game that you can get now without having to wait a year and a half, without having to wonder if it'll deliver, without having to wonder whether your shipping charges are going to go up, without having to wonder any of those things, including if the game is even good. This is a game you can check out reviews right now. You can see if it's a game for you right now. You don't have to rely on a handful of previews. You can check out dozens of opinions from users, from content creators, from whatever. Cult of the Now is your reminder that while crowdfunding has its charm and its appeal, at the end of the day, it also, sometimes you can just get games that are available right now. Also, a regular disclaimer that I do work for GameFound. Please take that into account as I go through this video. But with that past that, let's go ahead to the next thing over here, which is going to be, I am once again asking for your support. This is basically a reminder that in 2 days is your final day to enter this giveaway. This is a support drive I started on my channel around 3 weeks ago. The basic idea being, hey, I spent a lot of money on camera gear and I need to buy a new computer, so I ran a support drive, although I do think I'm going to start doing these once a year, every single year. We'll see how they go. I think I'll be doing it yearly, but past that, this support drive over on the channel, if you want, in addition to the supporting the channel aspect, you also can go ahead and get free entries into giveaways for all those games pictured there. For Oathsworn, for Zombicide Under Alive, for Master of the Universe, all of those are all in pledges. If you are interested in those, you can go ahead and enter that giveaway by even just entering a comment on that video, and I'll link to that down below. But additionally, if you want additional entries, if you support the channel through Ko-Fi, through Patreon, for YouTube memberships, every dollar you're supporting basically counts as another entry. I have full details in that video, and then additionally to that, we have recently, because the support drive has done fairly well, better than my expectations, and currently I think we're at around $3,900 total raised so far. If we do get an additional $1,100 raised, if we get to $5,000 by the end of Wednesday, I guess, basically we're going to be adding a few more games. We're going to be adding a Too Many Bones Unbreakable all-in pledge. We're going to be adding League of Dungeoneers, as well as Clash of Cultures, I believe it was, a in-shrink version of Clash of Cultures Monumental Edition, are all going to be added. Oh, and some metal dice for Half all going to be added to the giveaway if we hit $5,000 total raised. You have until Wednesday to enter the giveaway. I will be drawing and announcing the winners on, well, my week in review. So I'll be drawing the winners on Wednesday or late Wednesday, and you'll see the winners in my week in review if you want to go and check that out. And again, free entry. If you comment, you get entered, but additional entries are, if you support the channel, again, links to everything down below, Ko-Fi, Patreon, or YouTube memberships. And the Ko-Fi is the most helpful as far as the most money given to the channel percentage-wise compared to platform fees. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into, well, one more announcement over here. We got a bunch of things to go through. Level Up Retreat. Level Up Retreat is happening in Woodbridge, New Jersey, February 2nd through 4th. A whole bunch of games are going to be there. A whole bunch of people are going to be there. We have a hot game room all loaded with a ton of hot games. Anything from Sleeping Gods to Sleeping Gods Distant Skies to, we'll have a Castle of Burgundy Deluxe Edition on the table. We'll have a whole bunch of hot games there. I probably should do another full video talking about this before we get there. But Level Up Retreat, if you want to go ahead and sign up for that, you can go ahead and do so. I'll have links to that down below. It's going to be February 2nd through 4th in Woodbridge, New Jersey. It's going to be 3 days straight of just playing games, having a good time. We have a ton of, content creators, events, tournaments. There's going to be some miniature stuff going on. There's going to be some role-playing stuff going on. A whole bunch of things are happening. I highly recommend checking it out if you have a chance. But yeah, love to see you there. It's going to be Level Up Retreat. Which lastly, finally brings us to, well, supporting the Dice Tower. I know I just went ahead and covered my own channel, but we are now in crowdfunding and we have $268,000 raised. We are finally in the board game adjacent category as we dive into our 2-back and not to back. We have $268,000 raised of a $275,000 goal, 3,500 backers, and 18 days to go. And every single year, without fail, I talk about the Dice Tower. I talk about the Dice Tower crowdfunding campaign, and I do so because at the end of the day, they have been an incredible force for this hobby for a very, very long time, continuously iterating, continuously growing the team, both in terms of the number of people, in terms of what they do it, how they do it. They have the most all-encompassing content across the entire board game ecosystem. In my opinion, it depends if you count BoardGameGeek as a single entity. Honestly, BoardGameGeek and Dice Tower are two absolute powerhouses for the forces of good in this hobby, which I mean, I recognize now that by saying that, I'll have like 17 people who hate BoardGameGeek and want to comment about how they're not a powerhouse for the force of good, but they're a powerhouse for the forces of tyranny and suppression and all that stuff. I didn't mean to get into this conversation, but I do know that BoardGameGeek has some people who don't like it. I ultimately like BoardGameGeek. I do recognize that sometimes their moderation choices I don't always agree with. That is a conversation for a different video. Anyways, the Dice Tower crowdfunding campaign. If you appreciate the Dice Tower's content, if you appreciate what the Dice Tower has done for you, for now, for this year, for last year, for the past 15 years, this is an opportunity to once again show your support to, well, them this time instead of me. But yeah, I think Tom and the crew in general have done a tremendous job, and I think that, yeah, this is one of those campaigns that I try to back every single year, and I usually do not go for a ton of these types of things. I usually have a few creators here and there who I'll support, particular creators who I'm currently, you know, I don't know, currently trying to support a little bit here and there, but the Dice Tower is one of my most consistent. It's just because they cover everything. Every other content creator, myself included, is just trying to do the best they could to cover snippets of everything. The Dice Tower, I think, is one of the only channels you can say truly is very incredibly comprehensive in what they do and how they do it. Yeah, I highly recommend supporting them, and of course, if you want, there are options for promos and extras and all these other things along the way. There's stretch goals, there's marathons, there's you know, top 10 lists and digital awards and promo awards and stickers and bag holders and box things and trophy chips and dream coasters. Those dream coasters actually are pretty good. I have a few of them. We have set of RPG dice and metal dice and playmats and puzzles and money cards and shoutouts and all these things and tons of different things. But yeah, that is basically what's going on as far as the Dice Tower crowdfunding campaign. I do recommend, if you have benefited from their content, I recommend supporting them. And honestly, if you haven't benefited from the content, you're still welcome to, but I think I'm less like pushy that way. In any case, moving on to one more in the board game adjacent category, we have the Ogre Miniatures. This is over on BackKit. We have a Steve Jackson Games doing a deluxe set. Ogre Miniatures Set 4 is the fourth and final wave of Ogre Miniatures. $69,000 raised, 949 backers. If you've played the board game Ogre, they have both a full miniatures game, they have a board game, they have a digital adaptation as well. But this is going to be a set of miniatures for your set of Ogre. You're going to have to go out and paint these and all those things, but that's basically what we have over here. I think you have to go and paint them. I'm pretty sure they have to be painted. Like, I know there are these over here, but I'm pretty sure they all come. Yeah, Ogre Miniatures Set does not come pre-painted. I wanted to make sure. I knew they had a unpainted option. I wasn't sure if everything was unpainted, but I believe so. But yeah, that's going to be Ogre Miniatures, if you want to check that out. Again, this is a board game adjacent. I don't really go into the value or should you. It's miniatures for your Ogre board game. They had that. Remember that big, giant, deluxe, over-the-top Ogre set? Yeah, they had that once upon a time. That was more standee based, but they're actually pretty cool standees. Like, that was like, I think, like some good standees before standees were starting to get cool again. Anyways, we have, in the not funding category, we have Carolingi over here. Carolingi over on GameFound, 139 backers, 10,000 euro raised, 13 days left to go. I don't think this is going to cross the finish line, and honestly, that's a shame because this is a great game. Although, disclaimer, please note that BoardGameCo did do paid content around this game, so take that into account. But I will say, I really enjoyed Carolingi. It's one of the games that visually does not pull me in. They have a specific art style they're going for. It is an intentional choice, but at the end of the day, it's not my personal art style choice. But ultimately, the gameplay was incredibly well done. You can check out the gameplay on the channel. I thought the decision space on this was a lot. There's a lot of things to think about, a lot of second guessing yourself, double guessing, thinking through the impacts of your actions, thinking that you're immediately going to play the game again and play out differently. This is an area control game where you're going to be doing a degree of bag building. You're kind of building out your actions, and then every single round, there's 4 phases to each round, and each phase you're going to be putting, each season, you're going to be putting actions into a bag, which means you don't know the order the actions are going to come out, and so you have to be okay with whichever order they're going to come out in. But all players' actions are going into a bag, and they're all going to resolve one at a time. Meanwhile, you're trying to build out your actions, trying to build out your development counters across the board, trying to make sure you're set up for conquest in the various countries as they continue to come out. Carolingi had a lot going on. Very, very solid game. And yeah, it's a shame that it's not currently funding, and I don't know if it will, but if it doesn't fund, I do hope it does relaunch, either on GameFound or on Kickstarter, because I would love to see this one fund. Then we have over here with Scandinavian Big Box and Lancaster Big Box. In our crowdfunding campaigns, we are officially up to the crowdfunding campaigns of the week. We have Scandinavian big box, Lancaster big box, 154 backers, $26,000 raised, and this is not just the Scandinavian big box and the Lancaster big box. This is Queen Games once again putting out a million big boxes. They have Scandinavian, they have Lancaster, they have Marrakesh, they have Shogun, they have all these options over here. You can scroll through the sidebar over here to see what options they have. Also, I will say, because it's Queen Games, that they do have some of these early bird options over here. So they have that limited thing over here going on. You know, honestly, I'm disappointed. I was going to say that I was going to give them kudos because they didn't have the early birds, but I think I missed it. I went through the first few, and the first few didn't have those limited pledges. The other ones did. So we have the 175, limited 70 left, and then we have 195. So they are still doing the limited pledges, just not for everything, which is a shame because I was really prepared to say that congratulations, they haven't been doing that. Anyways, they're still doing it. They're still doing the limited early birds. So anyways, we have early bird mega bundles over here. We have all these options. And again, just ignore the mega bundles. Those are not actually pricing. The early bird mega bundle is your price point, but they are expensive. These big box games from Queen Games are expensive. I do like Kingdom Builder. I have the big box of that one. I think it's great. I have the big box for Lancaster. I think that's great. I don't have the big box of Scandinavian. While I do like, there's two games in here. There's Helsinki and Copenhagen. I do like Copenhagen. I have not played Helsinki, and they're very similar. Both of them, you're building out these polyomino rows over here with, trying to place these acrylic tiles. Different actual principles going on, but the core concepts are very similar as far as the card drafting and gathering of the polyominoes. But I do like Copenhagen. You can check it out on Board Game Arena. I've had the deluxe version once upon a time with the acrylic tiles. I think it gets better when you mix in some of the modules and expansions, but ultimately it is a little lighter than I'm looking for in my polyomino games, and I do have a lot of polyomino games. That said, I still do like it, so there is that. But either way, that's going to be over here. As far as holding its value, hard to say on these ones. Generally, Queen Game stuff is a bit of a mix. The Marrakesh stuff may well hold its value, but there's so many stuff to go into here that frankly I did not do a deep dive on each of the single big boxes. I will say in general, the big boxes are expensive. They are not always the easiest to get your hands on. They don't do a great job holding the value depending on which one it is though, so it is kind of a more of a convenience buy than a definitely best value buy. Although, did they have Marrakesh in here? I thought they had Marrakesh. Maybe I was wrong. I could have sworn I saw Marrakesh, but I must be wrong because I don't see... There we go. There's Marrakesh. I was right. There is Marrakesh over here. Marrakesh does do a better job holding its value overall. This one is an expensive game, so if you're looking for that one, that might be your best value pick. The more recent one, it is hotter. The rest, I would say, a little less so. In any case, moving on from there, we have Votes for Women, second printing. 1,500 backers over here, $138,000 raised. This is a card-driven game in which you're going to be, well, trying to take on the side of, are you either going to be locking in Votes for Women or not? So, I mean, listen, either side, whichever side you want to pick over here, it can't be worse than playing as the Germans in a war game. So, thematically, it is what it is. Or playing as Nixon in Watergate. There's lots of times where you're playing on the side you don't necessarily want to be on. But either way, this is coming to you from Fourth Circle Games, and we have one copy of Votes for Women. This is in its second printing, $75 for that. Unfortunately, it's a game that is fairly well rated. I think it's a 7.8 on Board Game Geek, but I believe it's also out of print at the moment. But that's going to be Votes for Women over here. As you know, it's the option to go ahead and get on the second printing. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Short version, I don't believe so. If you look on the second-hand market on this one, they're not going for $75, which means that while this might be your best opportunity to get your hands on one, I don't think it will hold its value on the second-hand market. So I think this is one of those ones that's more about the limited options to get your hands on it, and it's doing well with 1,500 backers, but I'm skeptical that it will hold its value if it proves to not be a game for you. If you're moving on from it because it didn't work for you, I think you will be taking a hit on this one. Then we've Hunted Kobayashi Tower. This is over on GameFound. We have $15,000 raised, 787 backers. This is basically going to be, what is it, Nakatomi Plaza? That's what it is. It's basically Nakatomi Plaza. It's Die Hard in a board game. I know it's Kobayashi Tower, but if you read the little plot notes, you're trying to show up to, help your wife or give her a gift or whatnot, and the whole tower's under whatever. It's Nakatomi Tower over here. This is Die Hard. This is the second edition over here, the Hunted series from Gabe Barrett. They have a whole bunch of iterations in it. It's going to be a card drafting game, card drafting solo puzzle with a degree of dice allocation as you try to, construct and survive through the events over here. Like, tell me that's not Nakatomi Plaza. That's not good. That's Bruce Willis. Granted, it doesn't look like Bruce Willis, but it's Bruce Willis, thematically speaking. But either way, it's going to be over here, Hunted Kobayashi Tower, a solo game that's going to have you going through that story as you draft cards, use those to drive your actions, have a degree of dice allocation. This is going to be $24 for the core pledge over here, $5 for the print and play, $9 for the update pack if you want that. And once again, I am skeptical it'll hold its value. These tend to go for around $15 in the second-hand market. You're paying around $24 plus shipping for it. So once again, it's more of a conversation of the easiest way to get your hands on it over holding its value of any kind. Moving on, we have Omertà, the 5 families. 485 backers, $40,000 raised, 11 days to go. Omertà, the 5 families from Vesuvius Media is going to be another Mafia-style area control game with action allocation as you try to, use your actions. They have a cool little bullet upgrade where you can use your bullets as your action counter. Either way, as you try to bribe the press, bribe the police, as you try to gain influence in various families on this board over here. I don't have a full, there's going to be a degree of conflict, area control, all those, buzzwords as far as the type of gameplay this is, but I don't have a good feeling of actually playing through this one, but I know the general arcs it's hitting, but it's going to be another mob game, which is unfortunately where it's going to hurt it a little bit, because the standard edition of the game is going to be $50, and the deluxe edition is going to be $95. And the $95 price point starts bringing you to a price point of games like Scarface, which frankly, can't speak to the gameplay quality of this one, but the visual look, the visual aesthetic, Scarface has you far and ahead. And then on the cheaper side, we have games like Godfather Corleone's Empire, which you can get for significantly cheaper than $95, which I think puts Omertà in a weird place where it's just within a genre that is very specific, and there are a handful of games that people are going to mentally find themselves comparing themselves to. There's another really expensive game that looks more premium, and then another cheaper game that is easier to get your hands on, which I think is just probably why it has several hundred backers, and it's doing fine, it's funded, but it's not doing amazingly well. The $95 edition over here is going to give you all these miniatures. So you can get 5 Godfather miniatures, you can get the Street Boss miniatures, you can get all these buildings and all these miniatures, and then again, that's where the premium aspect, it's nice to have those miniatures. They don't look like, great quality, they look fine. They look like the kind of miniatures you would get in a Fantasy Flight retail game from 15 years ago or whatnot. It's not bad, they just don't have that extra premium feel. They have that large en masse, a game like Inish, Kemet, Cyclades, those kinds of miniatures, as opposed to the Scarface miniatures, which do have that premium crowdfunding feel to them. They're also going to be our additional Kickstarter exclusive in the stretch goals, so check those out. From additional gameplay elements, from additional, we have the cop car upgrades, we have that bullet action tracker, so there are nice things to find in these extras over here. I do think Deluxe Edition is giving you a bunch of upgrades, which is nice. It's just the price point at $95 is a factor. And so as far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? Hard to say for sure. I do think that the number of backers on it does illustrate that there is definitely some interest in this one. I'm skeptical that it's a game you'd get your $95 back if you're going for that one. And if you want the retail, then I'd recommend getting directly at retail rather than the $50 on the crowdfunding campaign. Then we have only 2 more over here. Like I told you, it's a short week. It's a very short and fast. Wow, this is going to be a short week. We're 16 minutes into the video. This is going to be a short week. Anyways, we have Explorers of Navoria over here. 1,900 backers, 23 days to go, $124,000 raised. Explorers of Navoria over here is going to be a open drafting worker placement game, which you draft a bunch of cards in the first phase, which are going to decide the cards that go into your tableau and how you build up in certain ways, and then you take those tokens that we used to draft in the first phase, use them to go into a worker placement, where you try to get extra benefits and round out the things you need to drive your economy forward in the game. In the game, you're going to have your explorer and your camp on 3 different tracks as you move them up, trying to gain points as you move the tracks, trying to gain forward momentum by locking in your camp so further rounds are helpful, and gathering cards that are going to help you with fulfilling contracts by gathering various resources, selling those by trying to upgrade your tableau. The more you build those camps out, the more benefits you'll get for fulfilling those contracts. You can lock in end of round income every single round. You can lock in a ton of different bonuses as you draft these cards, and it's up to you to try to figure out the most efficient way to draft the cards, or even the factions to draft in to get the faction scoring bonuses by being the first to lock in 5 of any one faction. So there's a lot of things to consider over here. You can check out the review. I have a full review on the channel. I believe there are gameplays out there. I didn't do a filmed gameplay, but I believe there are. There's going to be different Dranda games who have a bunch of creative projects under their belt, and you're going to have the base game available for €35 for the Wanderer pledge, 54 for the Explorer pledge, which gives you the Explorers of Navoria Forgotten Lands, which includes a whole bunch of things that sadly I didn't have the option of exploring myself. And then we have the Adventurer pledge, which also gives you a playmat for £69 over there. Now the expansion over here is going to give you a bunch of things that like I said already, I have not had a chance to see them myself, but I mean I know they exist. I just haven't had a chance to play with them. But the expansion is going to give you a 5th player. It's going to give you more illustrated cards over here with these dual color cards, which are an interesting fun little thing. Gives you a new location for the board, new action tokens, asymmetrical setup tiles, and asymmetrical player power tiles, which those are nice little additional spins that give you more gameplay. We have contract tokens, exploration reward tokens, bonus factions, end of round bonus cards, and then 5th player components over here, as well as side quest cards and variant cards for solo play over here. So a bunch of extra things that could well improve my opinion of the game. Ultimately, I liked it. My biggest concern was how well does it hold up across, 5 players. Does it feel samey? Because to me, the more I played it, the more samey it did feel as I went through it. That's going to be Explorers of Navoria from Dranda Games over here. As far as should you back or should you not, will it hold its value? I'm skeptical it will. Just looking at sheer popularity, this is most comparable to Solosphere that they previously put out. In terms of both of them have campaigns that have had 2,000 plus backers, and I think they're probably in the similar range. And again, Solosphere is one that overall did okay on the secondhand market. There's not a ton of sales, but the few that are okay. You didn't lose a ton, but you did lose if you backed it on crowdfunding. And this is the fact they they tend to have a good retail presence overall. So not good, not the best, but a decent retail presence. So you probably could pick this up at retail down the road. I do think this is one that if you're really interested in the game and you don't mind paying a little extra for the publisher, by all means go ahead and support the publisher. But I do think it's one you're going to take a small hint on. Duranda has done fairly well over the past several years. They come out with a bunch of polished campaigns. Also, it's worth noting, Explorers Navoria, I believe, is rated a 7.8 on BoardGameGeek. I believe Duranda picked this up and is, iterating upon it. I believe it previously did exist. But yeah, as far as Duranda Games has a bunch of games that they've done over the past few years, all of them polished experiences. But as far as holding its value, it does fall into the range. If bang for your buck is your main motivation here, then I do think it's worth waiting and checking out the secondhand market down the road, or alternatively just picking other games instead. Versus if you're interested in the game and you're willing to take that small little monetary hit, if it's a game that's not for you, then by all means go ahead and pick this one up. And then from there, lastly, we have Monty Python and the Holy Grail. This is going to be over on BackKit, 3,100 backers, $169,000 raised. It is doing fairly well, but I'm not going to spend that much time on this one because I don't think that this is the board game audience as much. Just going through the campaign over here, you're going to be wandering around from location to location, trying to fulfill a quest, playing a bunch of cards, dealing with the Black Knight and his various limbs that are coming off. This very much does seem like an homage to people who want Monty Python and the Holy Grail, much more so than the board game audience. Just as you go through the crafting campaign, it looks like the game is going to be very much lighter. They have the overall campaign, the way it's put together, the presentation, there's no content creators covering the game, which not that you need a content creator covering the game, but it does speak to the fact that they're not appealing to the board game audience. So it doesn't feel like they're appealing to the board game audience. It feels like they're appealing to the Monty Python and the Holy Grail audience, which while there's nothing wrong with that at all, it just means that if you're watching this video, I think that if you're coming at this from a board game personality, this is probably not a game for you, versus if you're just a fan of Monty Python and you want this, well then go ahead and buy it, but then the game quality has nothing to do with whether it's going to be a game for you or not. Ultimately, the fact that you can fling a dead cow onto the field will probably be enough to convince you. That's going to be Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I'm skeptical it holds its value, but honestly, when it comes to this kind of stuff, when it comes to like fan things that can be hard to get your hands on later, they very often they can surprise you down the road. They can come around and it turns out they're incredibly hard to get your hands on, and somebody on eBay is paying $475 to get that one copy of Monty Python. It's possible. It's harder to say with these types of things. In any case, that's basically all we have for the week. Like I said, a very, very, very short week. As far as my picks of the week, like I said, there's not going to be any value pick of the week. If you want a sweet spot or whatnot, we can do support the Dice Tower as your value pick of the week. Although my lawyer has told me that I cannot actually call it a value pick of the week because it does not confine to the it does not confirm to the terms I actually use for my value pick of the week, which is the thing that makes the most sense to get on crowdfunding as opposed to getting retail because it will hold its value. But emotionally, also I don't actually have a lawyer for this, but emotionally it does feel nice to call it the value pick of the week. But as far as my personal interest pick of the week, I'm going to pick Carolingi over here. It is not funding, unfortunately, so I think it's a bit of a wasted throwaway. I don't know if it'll work or not. I don't know if it'll fund, but ultimately I did very much enjoy the gameplay of Carolingi, so that's going to be my personal interest pick of the week. And with that, we're going to go ahead and dive into the campaigns coming up next week. Just as a heads up, next week we'll have a few heavy hitters coming your way, and honestly there's more even. There's also, we have Among Us is going to be launching shortly. 3,000 followers already on this, and this is going to be more content for Among Us. We have Conan launching as well with 13,000 people following it. With only a few hundred or just over 1,000, we have Metro Runner coming to you from Thunderworks, and we also have oh my gosh, Spire's End, Rangitaki is going to be launching as well. So next week is, starting to pick up a drop as far as crowdfunding campaigns. Nothing crazy, but a drop. And that is basically it. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo. I hope you appreciate this video. And as always, I hope you have a good one. I bought a ceiling fan the other day. Complete waste of money, though. All he does is stare at it and keeps applauding and talking about how smooth it is.